This is the best time Ghana can take advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic to request for debt relief from the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. That's according to the head of financial advisory at Deloitte. He believes that aside from the many programs introduced by the government to revive the economy, there are many justifications for the country to get debt relief similar to what was given in the year 2001, which benefited the country. He was speaking to Joy Business's Ibn Sabute on a review done by Deloitte on the mid-year supplementary budget.
It has had to resort to all the other sources of raising revenue. You will see that even though government is bent on reducing or bringing some tax concessions, particularly for certain sectors that have been hardest hit by the COVID, government is still enforcing other laws and prosecuting tax offenders and trying to bring a lot more people into the tax net, which is a very good policy. I think government should still focus on that because our ability to raise internal revenue, I think we still have the ability to do that. But for one or two reasons, we have not been able to. A very good example is property rates. There are people who are living in luxurious homes who've never paid property rates. And those properties are identifiable. There's no way the person can hide that property. And so if we are not able to tax even properties, then you know that we are really struggling to raise the necessary revenue to support our budget. Also on the point about borrowing, we are in a pandemic situation, and therefore, as you see with a lot of other countries, over 80 countries have applied to the IMF for support. And so we are not the exception. We are part of the lot. But I think we'll go back to the age-old mantra that it has to be a smart borrowing. We should borrow the money and invest them in self-financing projects. That reduces the debt to GDP ratio. Because if you invest in tangible projects, those tangible projects increases the value of your GDP. And therefore, your debt to GDP ratio increases even though you are still borrowing. And so we should take advantage of the pandemic and also apply for the debt relief from international partners. I think one of the benefits we got around about the year 2000 and 2001 was when we opted for the HIPC. And it helped us because it gave government a lot of relief to invest in other projects. If we use the pandemic as a situation to make a strong case to our development partners to do some debt cancellation, we will get a lot of relief.
But do we have enough justification for that?
I mean, there's a lot of justification for that. And I think the conversation has started. And government should strongly push it and join other developing countries to push that conversation strongly. Because we have enough justification to do it. Our debt stock is not sustainable. It's not something that we can continue doing. And so the way to do it is to have some relief. And so if we get some debt cancellation, particularly our interest commitment, if you look at our total expenditure, our interest payments form the second significant component after compensation. So we borrow to pay loans that we have already contracted. This is not sustainable. And so the way to do it is to have some relief so that our interest component reduces significantly. And our investment in capital expenditure increases. If you do that, your debt to GDP ratio reduces. Currently, our debt to GDP ratio is increasing because we borrow, but we're probably not investing in resources that will increase the value of our goods and services in the country.
Beyond giving out of small stimulus packages and all that, what other ways do you think government can go to revive the economy, i.e. helping industries and the private sector to come back on their track?
Excellent. I think we've made a strong point at Deloitte in our mid-year review statement. One of the things that we suggested to government is to look at the sectors that have been hit with the pandemic and consider reducing the corporate tax rate of 25% to about 20%. So currently, as we speak, it's only the hospitality sector that by the pandemic that enjoys 22% tax. But the other sectors, aviation, oil and gas and others, the BDCs are still choking with taxes. And so we're thinking that to stimulate growth, because the way to do it is that employees people are struggling to pay their workers. And if there are layoffs, it has ripple effect on government and then our total income or GDP. So one of the ways to do it is to stimulate growth, is to allow this business to keep, to still stay in business. If they continue to stay in business, they produce. And we get the benefit of that in taxes and revenue to government. So that's one of the things. And then one of the ways that we propose to government is also to provide some form of tax credits for companies that decide to keep their employees. Let's say if a company decides to keep 80% of the employees for the next 6 months, they get automatic tax credit for the compensation that they pay to these employees or the remuneration that's paid to these employees. So if the person is spending about 80,000 on these employees for the next 6 months, that 80,000 is an automatic tax credit. It's a motivation and as incentive for these companies to keep their employees rather than to lay them off.
And that was Eben Sabate speaking extensively to Yao Latte, head of